Today we're going to be replacing the water pump on a 2011 to 2016 Mini Countryman. I'm going to start by jacking up the passenger side of the car, or the right side of the car when you're sitting in it. And then the other side, I have a ramp down. This side I've jacked up, so just maintain stability, but you can jack up the whole front end. You will need a jack to support the engine. Going to have to remove this side motor mount in order to lower the motor slightly in order to get access to the water pump. We're going to start by removing this tire, and I'm going to remove about half of the wheel well liner. Don't need to remove the whole thing, we just have to be able to get in there to get to the water pump. I'll list all the tools I use in the description below. Alright, so we have the tire off, and as you can see, the water pump is kind of buried. That's the pulley up there, that silver one that you can see about half of. So as you can tell, we can't really access that from down here, so we're gonna have to lower the motor slightly. So I'm gonna start by pulling the wheel well liner back. So you have a couple screws here, there's a couple more right here you have to pull, one there, there's a couple right in here. You do have to pull these little pegs out too. I seem to be missing a few, but I'm going to just pull half of this and push it out of the way. Don't need to pull the whole back part off if you don't want to. Feel free to do so, and then we'll go from there. So some of these may not want to come off. You can pry behind it with this while screwing it with your other hand. Those will come out pretty easily. On the underside, there's a couple more, and then there's that screw over there you're gonna have to take out for this to fully come undone. Alright, so we've pulled it, kind of pushed it over there. You'll do the same when you do a timing chain job, but just to give you a better angle, you may or may not need to pull it. There was already some room here, but there is the pulley up there. And right in front of it, this plastic piece is the water pump tensioner. It rides on the serpentine belt and the pulley, of course, and it rotates the water pump. So we're going to go up top and remove pieces so we can lower the engine. Alright, so we're going to have to remove this metal bit that wraps the whole way around. Has headlight mounts on it. It mounts charge pipe to it. Has the washer fluid and the coolant reservoir on it as well. We're going to remove all of those. These are Torx 30s, including that one as well. There's a bunch of miscellaneous 10s everywhere, and then I believe these are 12 or 13 as well, all listed below. You're going to also disconnect the headlights on both sides, and then these do line up, so you can see the second bit. This is going to hold where your headlight was, so you can actually take these off and put them back on. You may need minor adjustments when you're done, but it's not like other headlights where you're going to have to readjust the entire thing. And then over here, just going to pull this up, pull off from there. This is your hood pop. I'll show you how to do that. You're just going to put a screwdriver in there and pop it open, and then you'll disconnect the cable in there. Alright, so you can just pry the side a bit with a screwdriver, easy to open. Then you just kind of pull this up, pull that out, leave that away. This is going to close and push down through here as you take this off. I'd use a Ziploc bag and keep all of your screws. Alright, so we've removed all the 10s. These ones back here were a 13. I got it out. The headlights I took out, very easy. There's just 4. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. To take them out, put them in the car so I don't kick them. They're quite large. Next, we're going to take off this grill. So the grill, you're going to push up in here. There's clips the whole way along, and you can see it kind of bows forward. So we're going to take those clips off the whole way around, and then this will just lift off. Alright, so you can see those little clips right there. They just slot into these holes right here. Very easy, comes right off. Not very heavy. We'll put it in the car as well. Alright, once you take out these 2 Torx, you're going to put your hand under here, and you're going to pull the clasp out, and then it just kind of hangs there. You can do the same on this side, but you'll need to take the 10 out of here and pull this out first. So it pulls bottom out and then comes off these pegs up top. Alright, completely lifted. You just slide that through there when you take it out. This is already pulled off, pull the clip out. A bag of bolts, but this legitimately took like maybe 5 minutes. There's a lot of bolts, but just use a ratcheting wrench, easy enough. Alright, so now that we have everything out of the way, what we're doing is removing the motor mount. So all you got to do is just take this section out, so you can just unbolt there, lift the motor, pull this out. There's a bolt there. There's one on the other side down here, and there's one right there that you can see right in the middle. That one, and then there's one like down there. All right, so there's 3 bolts holding that on. We're we're just going to lift the motor slightly and then take that top one out, pull that out so that you can lower it. I don't think we have to take this part off, but if we do, easy enough. There's just bolts up here. I'm going to take off down there. I'm going to take that Torx 25 out so that this charge pipe moves easier, so I don't snap anything. It doesn't seem to want to come off, so I'm just going to loosen it so it moves more. I ended up disconnecting the low pressure AC line too. It was a Torx 25 as well, but now this is free to move a lot nicer. We can get to that bolt. All right, 13 mil on that one, 18 mil on that one, 16 mil on this one, and then of course the back one down there is going to be a 13 as well. Of course they were all different sizes, why wouldn't they be? And then under here, block of wood to hold it up. My block of wood was almost too big. Hold up the oil pan so you don't make a massive dent in it where the oil pickup is inside the pan. So we're going to loosen all those while this is under tension, and then we'll pull out the actual mount and then lower it slightly. All right, I took the ground wire off too. It's a 13. This bolt is unnecessarily long. Can't get it out even when it's done because it runs into this. I'm going to try raising the motor, but it's kind of a long way to go. I think I'm just going to pull these instead of raising the motor and straining some cables. So there's just a bolt there. There's another one back here. And I'm pretty sure that's it. So those two bolts. All right, there's two in the middle too. So there's 4 total. There's one right there too. It's too bad this didn't leak when I did the timing chain like a year ago, because you basically just remove all the same stuff for the timing chain, and you will hit your head on this corner right here, plenty. So beware of that. All right, so we've gone back underneath. We're going to now remove the tensioner right here, this plastic bit. In order to release tension, we're going to pull this peg. Sorry, there's no way to show it without putting my hand in the way. But you're going to pull this out so that it relieves tension. So it's out now. I think it clicks into, yeah, it has a click that it pulls out and clicks up. There you go. Hopefully you heard that. And then it kind of clicks into it. You'll see the cable comes out more, and there's a little tab, and it can click onto up there. So pull that out, and then I think there's 3 8mm bolts. We're going to take one out here, and then we can take the next 2 out up top. All right, top trick. When getting out this bottom bolt, you can't even use one of these, because as the bolt backs out, it presses the ratchet against this side of the engine bay, and you can't get it out. So get a ratcheting wrench. I think I talk about them in every single video, but they're so nice. All right, so I've lowered the engine a bit, and now it's easier to get to that bolt. And then if you come up top, the next 2 bolts are right here. And you can get a wrench on those easy. Maybe not a socket, but a wrench will work. All right, so I got it out. As you can see, my bearing's pretty good. Makes no sounds. So I'm gonna keep using this. You can replace this if yours is making sound. So you can see when I pulled this out, it kind of hooks onto that. Next, we're gonna take the water pump out. I haven't drained the coolant, so I like making a mess and then getting upset about it. So that's what I'm gonna do. You can see it's leaking out the bottom. You can see that vibrant green. So we're going to take the pulley off. So those 3 bolts, the middle one does not come off. It's the spindle for the pulley, or for the actual pump. So we're going to take those 3 off. The way I'm going to take these off is I'm going to use a ratchet on one of them. So I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to put the ratchet on the bottom one. And then I'm going to hold it in place by placing one of the wrenches on it. Let me find a wrench. All right, I don't know how better to explain this with one hand, but you're gonna hold your wrench against it here and turn the other one, because as you turn it, this is going to want to rotate. So by holding the wrench on this, you're gonna prevent it from spinning. And that's just to break them all loose, because once you break them loose, you can then hold the pulley right here, putting your hand through, and then you can just loosen the rest of them by hand. All right, so here's the pulley. Mine just pulled right off. I didn't need to pry it. I don't live in a rusty area. If you do, that might be difficult to get off. But mine, it looks worn, but it's completely round. There's no chunks missing. If there's chunks missing, replace the pulley. Mine looks fine. I'm not going to bother. And get the new pump, make sure it lines up. Some of them are circular. Some of them have this triangle, like the one in there. That one looks like it's been replaced. I don't know. It's got a slight bit of rust on it. Maybe it hasn't. I can't tell if it failed internally, which would mean that hole, the weep hole, is leaking permanently, or if the seal at the bottom leaked. I can't tell which it is. The whole thing's wet. So just make sure your new pump lines up. I got the same one. People online were really excited about this being metal. I don't really care. The rest of the car's plastic, so I don't see why it matters. But I bought one of these It's like 30 bucks. You can get an OEM one for 180 if you feel like it, but it's about a $30 one. All right, this is the position it's in the car. This top one was hard. I had to use the box end section to get that one off because there's stuff in the way. The other 4 you can get off pretty easily, but I'm going to loosen them all and then pry it off a little bit so that it starts dripping into my catch pan. And then once it's done leaking, I'll take the rest of it off. All right, finally drained. I made a mess like I promised. That was so hard to get out. So basically what happened was this, I got all the bolts out real easy, would not come off. I was prying on everything. Basically this little metal piece right here seized in place. So that's the bottom right corner. I managed to get this screwdriver. I was just tapping it, trying to get behind here because you can't go too far because of the peg. And then I was twisting it. So twisting the screwdriver, trying to get off. I had to use a hammer to tap it in behind. Probably scored all this up. I'll show you in a minute, but that's how I eventually got it off. I was gonna try and not make a mess, keep the bolts in, have it just come off, but it is what it is. All right, there it is. Should be nice and clean. As long as you didn't have some crazy valve cover leak that was going along the seal. So I'll clean that up, put the new one on. Here's the old one. So I really scored up this bottom corner, trying to get a screwdriver behind it, but it clearly the weep hole failed because the seal was doing just fine. So put the new one on, new seal on, bolt it all back together. All right, got the pump back in, bolted down. To tighten the pulley on, this is what I did. Got a wrench, it's so hard to see, ratchet on that bolt, and then the one to the right of it you can tighten because as it rotates the pulley, it's gonna brace it against the engine bay. All right, I put the top 2 bolts in and then put the tensioner in, and then I could get the top 2 tight from the top with a wrench. And then don't forget to put that back in, so that just pushes right back in to put the tension back on. I get to push that the rest of the way in, and then we'll go back up top. All right, basically just put stuff back together. Make sure to put this part on first. You gotta jack the engine back up. You got a 13 on either side. You got the 16 right there. You gotta put then the top part on. It's 4 13s, and then you have one here as well. There's a bolt that goes in the back to hold the grounding wire on. Then this bolt here, we're gonna wait, and you're going to lower the jack so that the engine drops back onto the mount. There we go. So that's completely disconnected, and now you're going to tighten that bolt, and then we'll start putting the rest back together. All right, wheel well all back together, all the push pins back in. Don't forget about the ones on the bottom. All right, top the coolant back off. I still haven't put the headlights in, put any of this back together, but I'm just making sure we have no leaks and we can move on. Just top that off, start the car, let it cycle, make sure it doesn't leak, and then we'll go from there. All right, so after starting it, it did make a bit of a sound. I think it was the coolant that got on the serpentine belt and the pulleys. I sprayed a little bit of WD-40 on the tensioner pulley right here, and the sound went away. It was a pretty nasty sound. So if you do get that, don't worry. But that'll be it. I have a more in-depth video on the oil cooler gaskets if you need a video on how to put the rest of this back together, but basically just bolts going back in from where they came out. Thanks for watching.